You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This is not my home. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I'm your host, Ryan Lauer. The Batman Book Club is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Just go to batmanonfilm.com, click on podcasts, and you'll find the Batman Podcast Network. That is a whole list of other Bat-related shows that also love to dive into other nerdy subjects we all love to frolic about in our free time. The Batman Book Club is also on Patreon. If you like what's going on with the show and you want to help support the show, just go to patreon.com/thebatmanbc. Now, thank you for listening to episode 121, Batman 89, a special Batman Day release. And with me, I could obviously never do this alone, but I've got two Batboys and Lego Lawrence here in the Wayne Manor study, ready to talk about this book. Returning to the show, you actually heard both their voices just a couple months ago to also talk about some Keaton Batman from the West Coast. That's right, we got the whole United States of America covered today. I'm in the Midwest. From the West Coast, formerly known as J. Rocca, Justin Kowalski. Hello, Justin. Welcome back.
How you doing? And I also have Michael Keaton with me here.
Yeah, you do. That's great. That's a bank, right?
The bank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Old school bank. And coming from the East Coast-ish, close enough, is the sheriff. You also heard him many times on this show. Another Brian Haas. Welcome back, pal.
Pew pew. I would, if I wasn't tethered to the computer with my headphones, I would grab my 89 bank from the.
Yeah.
You guys have the sticker though. Mine doesn't have the sticker.
Mine has has all the stickers.
Oh,
and I've also got the
You're
Toy
better
Biz projection gun.
that's
close.
It's amazing.
That's amazing. Justin actually brought some trinkets with him as well, in case this is going to be a visual, in which he's got the Batboat. The Happy Meal
some
toy.
Batman Returns
Ebo,
stuff.
Batman
Pete would love this one though because it's the duck.
The duck, Penguin and the duck. I had both of those.
Baby.
I loved them. And as I've said, I don't think that my mom was one that wrote letters to Warner Brothers because of Happy Meals and the movie of Returns.
Yeah.
And then yes, there's the replica Batarang. Oh man, Haas has to. Yep.
He's like, I'm
Haas is
leaving.
disconnected. He's like, all right, I'm gonna show you. Yep, there's his. And now Haas has his.
Bros.
And guys, mine's in
That tells you a
storage.
lot that even unplanned, we have sitting at a computer, we have a myriad of Batman 89 things within arm's
Right.
reach.
Always.
It's like, oh yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, I got some stuff. You know,
You got great stuff.
this is not.
I mean, what do I have? Oh yeah, you got a great mug. I've got a Batman,
Batman
mug,
mug.
and then I've got, you guys could see it, the mascot of the Batman Book Club, Lego Lawrence.
Lego
Boombox
Lawrence.
up,
Cheers
all
to
up.
you, Lego Lawrence.
all up for this. We'll be bringing him up a couple times here in this discussion. This, I don't know that I want to say like this is long in the making, this episode for us, but a year ago, actually, a week before the first issue of this comic dropped, the three of us convened to talk about the Batman comic book adaptation of the 1989 film.
Yes.
We talked a little about this comic, and then the three of us united a couple months ago to celebrate 30 years of Batman Returns, and we talked the comic adaptation of that movie. And it just kind of felt, guys, I think the three of us, we're on a nostalgia kick, the three of us. You want to do this once Batman 89 wraps up and the hardcover comes out, and you both were pretty enthusiastic. So I'm excited for this conversation. So let's, you know what? I think Jack Napier said it best.
Let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Let's talk Batman 89. Now, this is a very recent comic, which actually haven't done, aside from the monthly wrap-ups with our own Penguin, Peter Vera. We haven't done haven't covered a very recent story in a little bit. So this actually just wrapped up in July, was issue 6. Written by Sam Hamm, who all of us Bat nerds know was the screenwriter for Batman. I forget. Did he get a credit?
He's a story credit on
Returns?
Batman Returns.
Story. Okay.
He was a screenwriter on both movies, but also had many writers after him on both.
Yes. Okay. Illustrated by Joe Quinones. This released and initially was announced in 2021 February that it was going to be digital first, then physical, and then hardcover, all within like the back half of last year. That of course changed, in which there were 6 issues released. There's a bit of a delay in one of them because I believe I saw online that the artist came down with COVID, and you know what? That is a great reason to put a book on delay. And then the hardcover actually came out at the end of August. So, gentlemen, I'd like to ask you both, what version did you read for this episode? Justin.
Okay.
Haas. Justin
Okay.
Haas.
Go Haas. Let Haas go.
Okay.
My bad.
Well, so as the books were releasing, we get early access to books through Batman on Films access. So I read the books early, and it was one of those things where like that I was checking way in advance. Is it there? Is it there?
Yeah.
Where's the next one? Where's the next one? I'm not super current with a lot of other books, but Batman 89 I was very interested in and wanted to keep up with. So I read it initially as the book issues released that way, and then I think I maybe got the first issue physical just to have it, but then I was going to wait until the hardcover to get it collected. So for this show, I did read it in hardcover, but I will say that it's a little disappointing because the paper, and this seems to also be a running theme with these movie adaptations, because I had some reservations about the movie adaptation deluxe edition we talked about. But in the hardcover, you compare the pages of the hardcover to just a digital version. I feel like the printing and the paper in the hardcover loses a surprising amount of depth in with the colors and the all that stuff, because there's some pages where the Batmobile or the background's just completely the blacks, because it's a dark book, right? It's like Batman 89 universe, Burton universe, and a lot of the colors just kind of bleed into the paper. And if you look at that same page on digital, it's much more vibrant, much more bright. You can see subtle differences in the shades, the Batmobile or the bat suit and stuff like that. So it's a fine read in the hardcover. I like that it's physical and that it's collected, but I feel like it does the art quite a disservice. So even though the cover is great and the VHS hardcover art is great, if I read this again, I would probably do it digitally unless it gets reprinted on better.
Gotcha. Justin.
Yeah, I just read it digitally.
Okay.
That was it. Simple. We can get into why I didn't read it any other ways later.
Yeah, definitely. I read it this time. The first time this isn't the first time I read it. This was my first reading of it in hardcover. So for this episode, I read it in hardcover. But yes, Haas, like you, we had early access, in which we did read, in which I think we even mentioned a year ago when we did the Batman comic adaptation. And yeah, I don't think I could really wait, though I kind of wanted to wait until the physical copies were in my hand to read it for the first time, but I kind of couldn't. So yeah, I read each version. And yeah, Haas, I mean, I'll say it now because we all kind of texted about it a little bit, that I love the paper that I think DC has gone back to in printing stuff. It is a little bit more newspapery-ish, like just a little thicker than newspaper, but it's not the glossy. Because I'm not necessarily a fan of the glossy look. I think that takes away from some coloring. But here, I don't know, something with the dark colors printing on that paper really made it to where you lost some detail. And I think the best, I mean, there's like somebody has black hair and there's the street behind them. There is no differentiating between the two. It kind of just runs together as just
like there's a
dark.
panel with
That's
Harvey Dent and he's dark alley and he's holding a gun, and you miss that on the printed page, because it's the values are so close to each other. Yeah,
and I really wanted to go grab the physical issues and see if those were printed better, but I remember not necessarily having. I didn't have nothing came to mind reading them physically, of that being an issue. So we'll get into that a little bit longer. Guys, I think I probably know your answer, but for clarity, we'll start with Justin. When was the first time that you read this?
I read it right when it came out. like
There you go.
issue by issue. Even
Issue by issue.
obviously a little sooner we'd get some like advanced
Sure.
copies, so probably a few weeks at a time. But yeah, as these things came out, I read them.
Us?
Yep, same deal. The second that these were available, issue
Yes.
by issue, I kept up with it. Yeah.
I think I already answered that I'm the same as both of you. So the final question is, why Batman 89? And I'm going to interject here and say, I know why, because
Why is it
I
called that?
knew how each of you feel about this story. And I think you guys know how I feel. And I think we have three varying opinions on this story. So the nostalgia factor that the three of us are on and uniting, mixed with I think it would just be a generally good conversation about this book that I think actually has a lot of reviews. People objectively thinking about it, reviews are pretty scattered about the whole story. I think there are some, and there's nothing wrong with it, that it's the fact that it's revisiting the Keaton world as Batman are instantly just like, I loved it, period. And that's fine. There are others that they have high expectations because it's revisiting that world that a lot of us are nostalgic for and love, that didn't care for it. And then there's a lot of stuff mixed in between.
Yeah.
So I think, let's go with Justin. Why don't you kick us off here with, I guess, some quick a quick summary of your thoughts on the story as a whole before we dive in specifics.
Yeah. Could we touch upon the announcement at first, though? I think
Go for it.
when they announced that they were doing this, it was huge, because back in the day, and you posted this today, when Joe Quinones posted that image, like, was it 2017, of like, hey, Batman
2016, it's credited 2016 on his website, but the image itself is signed 2015 in the bottom corner.
Okay. Well, when that came out, people lost their minds. It was like, why doesn't DC do this?
Yeah, the pitch that he made to DC that was trying to get,
and apparently they said no at first, but like with this, it was around the era of DC doing these like 99-cent digital first exclusives, right? We're like, why not do this? Because they were doing Batman 66, they were doing Wonder Woman 77, Injustice, all these things. They were doing these like every day. They had a new digital thing, and so that would have been really cool. So when everyone found out it didn't happen, and he showed that image, it was like, why don't they continue the world of Batman, Burton's Batman world? Like, that'd be so awesome. And so when they finally announced this and the Superman 78 thing, it was like, oh, we're jumping back into those worlds, and got me really excited, because I remember even talking about it, like, what are we going to get? I can't wait to get this and this and this. Like,
we were in our text thread, I think, and we couldn't stop just.
I love Batman 89, and that image they dropped from cover number 1.
Yeah,
that was just
the main.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful cover. And so like, I'm like, oh, like, I'm all in.
They got this.
Could not wait. Like, man, you can't screw this up. Right?
Sam Ham, the
Sam
art
Ham,
looks,
yeah. Like, so it has all the ingredients of this is gonna be great, right? And you kind of got. I don't know. I don't remember if they had any plot lines dropped or anything. You just knew Two-Face was going to be in it, right? And so
I think I just read right before we even recorded, and it was just talking about, going back to that world that a lot of people were introduced to as their Dark Knight, with Sam. Like, that was it. It wasn't like Bruce Wayne is blah 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 or anything. There wasn't a story plot like that. It was just the idea. That was the sell.
Yeah, and then they got closer to it, and they're like, oh, he's kind of combining Batman animated series style with Burton stuff, whatever. It's probably based on rights and whatever. There's likenesses there. But the cool thing to me, I love that we're like, oh, we're finally going to follow up on Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Yeah, baby.
Two-Face, which I love. Like, oh, that was like the biggest thing we were robbed. We were robbed of it. We got a little bit in Lego Batman, just him voicing Two-Face in Lego Batman. But
like, mean stuff.
Yeah. But like, getting him as the villain of this was like, oh, that's gonna be so cool. And so I was really excited for it, and so here we are now. So do you want me to give like my kind of concise take, or
like your short one, because I know we're gonna dig into
I think Batman, the Batman 89 miniseries is a decent Batman story. It is, for me, it is the wrong Batman story to fit in the tone and theme of the world that Tim Burton set up originally. That's my take. I don't think it I don't think it tonally works. Like if you were to watch Batman 89 and then Batman Returns, which are two way different movies, but there is a common thread of the freaks and like the battle of that.
Yeah.
And you jump into like, well, here's kind of part 3, right? It just falls completely flat for me. And that's all I'll say.
All right.
I'll drink my Batman water.
So what, like overall thoughts?
Yeah, just a quick summary where you've ended up on the book.
I mean, I don't want to say I'm a complete 180 from Justin, but I kind of am. I mean, historically, me and Justin have done 180 on other Batman stories before. Yeah, like my expectations were really high, and it is one of those things where when I started reading the book issue by issue, I really quickly had to realize that I needed to excise the decades of hype in my head for what the story could and should be. And that let me enjoy it. I don't even want to say for what it is, because that feels like it's underselling what it is. Rereading it as a whole, I feel like it has only improved for me. There are some nitpicky things that stand out. And I guess we can get into those overall at the end. But overall, for me, I think the missing link for a lot of people is that to me, it fits in that world just fine. But there is kind of that it reads like an illustrated edition of a first draft of a Tim Burton Batman 3 without Tim involvement, if that makes sense. Like it's mostly there, but I feel like there would have been some more producerial or directorial flourishes that kind of sheens over this story, which you can also, like, if you go back and read the original drafts of Batman 89 or Batman Returns, you can see that. And I think if you read just the scripts alone without Tim Burton for 89 and Returns, you would probably also sense some sort of disconnect between page and screen. So I feel like that is still present here. So I'm trying to be cognizant of that and kind of discount it a little bit. But at the end of the day, the book gave me a lot of things that I wanted to see in a third story, like Billy D's Harvey Dent explored more, Two-Face. What in the heck would have happened with a Robin in this universe? I wasn't exactly looking for the Catwoman to be included in the third installment here, but she is. And then so there's more Gordon. So there's a lot of stuff in here that I think is definitely worth talking about and are good additions to the Burtonverse, in my opinion.
I land probably like exactly in the middle of both of you. For you, Paul Herman and Jay Yaws, a second reading collected did improve the story for me, I think. I did read all of them right before I read the 6th issue, the day that it came out, also because the story had been going on for like 11 months at that point. But it did come together better for me. But there's a lot of stuff. There's some elements of it that exceeded expectations. There's some that didn't meet expectations, and then there is a lot that meandered around, kind of, sort of.
I can see, and I can see that for sure. There's a lot of there's a lot of asterisks here, as you go, but as a whole, I feel like the whole is greater than the sum.
Is greater than the sum of its parts. Okay,
it is.
I feel like just as I'm kind of flipping through it, one of my takeaways that really bugged me, and I don't know where y'all are at. I just feel like the coloring is so bright. Like it doesn't feel.
Well, get the card cover. It darkens it down.
Yeah, there you go. It just doesn't feel atmospheric at all. It just feels so like the color palette is just bright. It's like greens, all these. It doesn't feel as I don't know. I would love some more smoke and just atmosphere.
There is something with, because I think those are, check the tape, that episode, which I wish I'd look at right now of what number that episode was. I think it might have been 60 episode 69 because we even said, oh, you should have waited 20 episodes, and
Right.
89 could have been about 89.
Yeah, and we talked, and it was just one issue. It was actually before the first issue came out, but we had all read it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I mentioned that actually that I think I was very let down by the first issue because I had expectations of what you said, Justin, like the art.
Yeah,
The
because
art
you look at the cover,
really-
and the cover, you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
great, A plus. This is great.
It plays
the whole
dark.
book to be like that.
It plays dark with, and I mean, there's a lot of purple in that instead of just black, and you know, and I almost kind of envisioned, man, is it something with the coloring then? Because that image that Quinones did that's in black and white, you know, I thought of that and I'm like, well, you compare what we have now and what that was, and they're pretty close. And it's like, so maybe it was the black and white aspect of it. Maybe the coloring kind of takes me out of this.
Yeah.
And I think
Do a
there
noir
was something
version.
with that I just didn't feel, I don't know, something was off in the art with me. So that's where I stood at the first issue. And then I softened up and just accepted that's not to say that the art is bad or like, you know, the artist isn't good.
The art's
anything.
actually
It's
really
just-
great. It's
yeah.
just
I didn't know if it
how
fit
it was
this.
rendered out. The color,
something about it was off with me. So in fitting, like that's where I can lean towards what Justin's saying in the atmosphere part, because why I still adore those Burton Batman movies is because it's so atmospheric. Even though the second one is all, you know, soundstage and stuff, there's still so many Burton sensibilities to like the atmosphere of it just feels great. And I don't think this book had that.
Yeah.
I think you can almost say it has a little bit more animated series, but
Well,
the New Adventures Batman animated series,
Yeah.
which I'm like, well, you know, that's not.
Yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
unnecessary conflicts that arise with the coloring, and like you guys were kind of starting to hint at, is that a lot of the designs I feel unnecessarily add in this strange animated series twist on it. Like
Mhm.
you got Batman 89, and then you're gonna inject a little bit of animated series. Like
you got like Summer
Bruce-
Gleason there.
You got Summer Gleason. You got Bruce Wayne when he's out in public starts to look like a
The suit.
amalgamation of the animated series suit.
Yeah.
Catwoman's suit is like half Batman Returns, half animated series,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what? We didn't need it. We didn't need to just change it.
Yeah.
But
The
on
literal
the other-
bank in the first issue
Yeah.
is like
The
the
giant
animated
penny,
series.
But it's
Like-
and so there's a lot of, and those are a lot of intentional homages
Yeah.
from Quinones. But then on the other hand, Two-Face looks and feels exactly like I would want a Burton Two-Face.
Yeah.
to look.
I
There
have
are some
zero nitpicks
zero,
about
yeah.
Harvey Dent's look. as
There
Two-Face.
are some new Bat vehicles in here that look exactly how I would want a Burtonverse Bat cycle to look like. There's some
Exactly.
gadgets that are really great, and then you've got things like, so there's a lot of things that, and then you even have like some of the Joker goons and stuff that come back that feel very much like
Lawrence
fit.
is back.
Lawrence.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun like Burton-y like homages. Like I didn't want us to miss those. There's a lot of like there's like Beetlejuice. There's
Oh, come
Mars
on. Yes.
Attacks.
Those first 2 pages.
Yeah, you
My-
literally got Prince Joker in there.
Prince
Yeah. You
Joker,
even got
the
the
Beetlejuice
mutants.
couple. You got
Yeah.
her. What's her name from Beetlejuice? Winona Ryder. You got
Yeah.
the
Lydia.
Yeah, Lydia.
stock and barrel. The 2 of, I always forget their names. Nightmare Before Christmas. Is
Jack
in there.
and
What's
Sally?
who's the Oogie's kids?
Oh,
The skull and the devil. They're over in their masks on the side. What's the semi driver in Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
yeah, Large Marge.
Large Marge. She's in the bottom corner. Yeah, you already said Mars
You
Attacks.
got the Maitlands from Beetlejuice.
You've got a little Oswald kid in the back on that page. Like
I
that
know,
to me
I-
was so much. That to me was
I
so
love
much
the
fun.
Oswald kid.
Like so I can't. I'm not going to discredit it at all. Like I definitely love those little things that aren't.
Yeah, I
pulling
think
you
those
away
things are
from the
fun.
story. Those are so
Yeah.
much fun. I like them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that. That's all.
Yeah. No, I think those are fun things that like in a comic you have the ability to like put a little fun little winks in there. Like it wouldn't work in a film as much as like a comic. You can populate the backgrounds with some stuff, but in a film you'd be like, well, what the heck?
Yeah. So I mean, we're atmosphere. So let's talk characters then.
Yeah.
Because there are some. So the Billy D, I think likeness is spot on. I think the Keaton one. I think that one. The Keaton one's actually pretty decent.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not odd.
Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I have no issue with Keaton.
Gordon and Alfred had me scratching my head.
They both have mustaches.
They both
Yeah.
have mustaches.
Alfred looks great. Like it looks to me, it looks like Goff with a mustache.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get that, but yeah, it's not like
I do.
They both look like a Commissioner Gordon and Alfred.
Yeah,
for sure. They're not distracting. This is not what they usually look like. But they look different from.
I think you could have. It's obviously trying to get Pat Hingle's Gordon to look a little bit more comic-y, and I think they could have gotten him to look very close to that, like to me, in the third movie.
I mean, his original proposal, image has Gordon with a mustache too. So
yeah,
I mean, I shouldn't have been surprised.
It's just right stuff. I don't know why sometimes the family gets hung up on stuff like this, because it's usually the family that has to approve in these things. And so
I mean, Billy D. Williams and Keaton actually look pretty decent. It's the Pat Hingle and Michael Goff ones that don't get the full approval. Huh. I would like to know how that works, because that seems interesting to me. And then Catwoman. I love Catwoman. This sounds great. I love Catwoman waist up, but it's because the design.
I already said. I mean, I said that.
And the bottom half is completely different. And I know that Peter did not like the design. I said, I like it, the top half, because it does look exactly like what we were introduced to. I'm really curious why the bottom half changed. It's not a deal breaker, but it's noticeable. Of like,
there's no real story element to it, like, even like Batman's costume, it's like Batman Returns logo, 89
muscles,
purple inside, Rebirth.
And lenses, and they give him the white
they give him
lenses.
Yeah,
white lenses.
At first I thought it was just a flourish for the comic, because it's a comic. But then later on, when he has a scene with Selina, he does a little thing on his cowl and the lens is off, so you get his eyes. So you could have had lensless movie Batman the whole time, but it was a conscious choice to give him the glowing, white lenses.
And I do think Wayne Manor returns Wayne Manor.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else that stood out. I don't think Selina as herself, like when you get the full shot of Selina when she goes into GCPD and she's dressed as in the like the pink suit. I think she also is in the right ballpark of Michelle Pfeiffer. Not distractingly different. More in line than the Catwoman suit as a whole. Yes. I don't know that I see anything else Lawrence is perfect. He looks great. He has,
as long as they got Lawrence right.
Then I'm fine. He's in 2 panels and he's got the boombox in both. And I think that's kind of it as far as like carried over likenesses of, because Haas, you mentioned, the Batmobile obviously looks perfect, right? Same one, but as you said, the newly created bike, which I really like. I think that could have.
Where's
totally
the McFarlane of that
one?
Yeah. And Robin, I and that's a question mark too, because we don't know exactly. Well, we do. Like Robin, we know Robin could have looked pretty close to the Batman Returns action figure that came out. And Tim Drake and his outfit was designed in conjunction with Tim Burton in the 90s as a comics first forward kind of introduce him in the comics, so we can kind of update it there, so we can use that in the movie kind of thing. Pretty much very similar to how Batgirl was introduced in the 60s show. Yeah. But obviously Sam Hamm and company took a different direction for what Robin would look like in this universe. And I like it a lot. I think it really works for me, and it really works it's a good reflection of what that character is trying to achieve and where he's come from and what his goal as a hero is in the story. So I
Drake,
like
Winston
Drake.
Winston Drake? I thought it was Drake Winston.
Okay,
Winston Drake.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would definitely want to so we got the looks of a lot of stuff out. I really want to obviously talk about the story, and I think the Robin aspect is a good part to bring up, because to me the whole Robin story in this book is one of those things that hangs around the middle of like and don't like. I almost feel like his story could have been the extra sub story in an issue that's like, hey, 8 extra pages to tell a Robin story. I think that fits better than he is part of the main story. Does that make sense? It feels a little disconnected from what's going on with the rest. And I think a lot of people could probably argue of like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, because the story is so heavily focused on Harvey Dent's change that Keaton takes a little bit of a backseat, I think, in this. I'm saying Keaton. You know
just
what?
Like,
just like
movies.
Returns.
Just like the movies.
Yes.
Like
So that part, okay, that's fine. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. But then the bringing up Burnside and checking in on Drake, I don't know. It doesn't just flow for me.
Yeah.
For me, it flowed much better in the Collected because you kind of know how it plays out. It feels very much to me like Batman Returns, where when you know your major focal people in this story are Batman, Two-Face, Winston Drake, Catwoman, kind of, and they start separate, but as the story ends, they all kind of converge more and more. And I got way more of the connections between like Drake and Burnside and the rest of the story as you go in, because like even Harvey Dent knows who he is, so to me it's part of it's all tied into the whole two Gothams thing,
Yeah.
there's on their side of the city, there's more to be done there, and hits on the Bruce Wayne being a rich person, like legacy stuff. It's a really interesting take, and I think it's not non-traditional, right? Like we saw the much more traditional movieized version of it with Batman Forever, but we always knew that if Tim Burton was going to do at one time a Robin in Batman Returns, it would have been an African American, and it's interesting to see how Sam Hamm brought that into this story, just completely, because I think their thing was like, well, how does this work in live action? How does this work with Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne? You know what I mean? And to have it be more born out of the story at hand, instead of also tacking on Robin's traditional origin story onto another story, I think is a really interesting approach. And to me, it feels pretty organic in this story at the end of the day.
My whole thing, this is where my whole issue with the story is, it feels more like a contemporary piece. Like, hey, what's really happening in our world? And I don't think that the story's bad. That's where I just feel like the reality of like
if
people
they would
being
have done this
disenfranchised because of, I just think that doesn't work in the Burton world. It just, because it doesn't seem like his storytelling style.
I feel like if they would have made this the movie in '95, it would have definitely, people would have been like, whoa, like it would have been a really interesting thing. But it would have,
but I don't think that's a Burton. Like, I'm thinking I'm in the Tim Burton world. Tim Burton would never tell that story. And that's why I feel like it's disingenuous to what's been put out. It would have been more focused on the weirdness of Harvey Dent and his duality.
And that's
instead of like, he came from this other world that he's kind of rejected, and they're like, you're not really one of us, you're trying to be this. And so that's where I was like, oh, you guys are almost making a commentary on the world now instead of telling a story of the world you're trying to be a part of. And I think that's why it doesn't work for me at all. I'm like, this is social commentary instead of a true continuation to the tone that they created back in '89. That's all. That's my, I don't need to dig too much more on it, because that's really the issue. It's not a bad story, just not the right story for this book.
It could have went either way. I think like Burton could have come in and dropped some elements, or deprioritized or de-emphasized some elements for sure. Obviously we won't know what would have happened, but like,
well, you can kind of know, because there's nothing in his filmography that deals with anything like this. He is,
but he very well could have been like, when he put out pitches for things or whatever, like, because he's not a writer really. Like, somebody else would have written, like Sam, he would have gotten screenplays and then putting Burton Sheen over it. So
that's what happened with Returns. Like,
the thing is too, it's like, this version of Two-Face being African American Billy D, I think it would have been really, I think it would have been kind of really hard to just ignore the fact that he's African American. I love the fact that they make that part of the story though. Like,
I don't
to
think
me,
it's
it really
ignoring
works.
it. Like obviously, like having Billy D be Two-Face is cool. Like that was the one thing I was excited. It was like, oh, let's see like Billy D play out as Two-Face.
Yeah.
I just think like that story, that the story that was told doesn't fit the world. That's all.
Well, that's
the only thing.
And I think part of that too is I feel like it's kind of we see a little bit of repeat of that in modern times with when you go from like Man of Steel to Batman v Superman, and you're like, there should be like a middle movie in there to kind of get you there. I feel like if this Batman 89 comic was always going to be number 3, they could have built up to more of the things that they had to make up for in this, because they got Harvey Dent out of Batman Returns. Like they could have built more of his backstory, more of this social unrest in there, because you see plenty of social unrest in Batman Returns.
Are you saying
for
this book to work more for Justin, it needed more Batfleck?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
I wanted to make sure that wasn't.
No, wait, no. I just think they could have definitely delved into more of his duality stuff, and I mean they do, but it's just not weird enough.
I think that I'm with you a little bit, and it's with the Robin aspect of, I don't know, that no one touched on topical themes that, in as much as he can say that was unintentional. I think there's definitely a lot of connection there, and it didn't bother me at all. Burton does play fantasy escapism a lot in his movies, and with that comes like a charm in his movie making, his combining of different styles of movie making, like a, what do you want to say, big painted imagery mixed with sets on location and claymation. Like he incorporates all of that, and there's a charm with it.
But
and
look
I think
at the
that
stories
that
too.
is but I'm saying, like, and I'm not diminishing or belittling, but it's like the stories were a little bit more simplistic, whereas this is definitely adding topical. I mean, how does the first issue ends that the cops mistakenly shoot and kill an African American citizen? It's like, shit, like, that's heavy stuff. We can all say that it's topical in within the past couple of years, and all that, and it's like that's almost too, for me, that does feel that is a little bit of a disconnect of Burton world with that. It's like Burton's not heavy, and I appreciate going to him and not having heavy.
Right. It's interesting because, like, when you do look at a lot of his characters in his movies, you do have that whimsical notion, but it's also very dark and Burton-y, if you will. But another running theme is that a lot of the characters are these outsiders and misfits, and I think you get that in this for sure. But it does have that more grounded, realistic anchor to it. That is a little, you have to kind of get used to that in the story.
So, but what's cool, but in the Burton world, like Bruce Wayne is weird, not because he's like this rich guy. He's weird because he's this eccentric rich guy who he collects weird stuff, and it's not like he's not like the Affleck Batman, who's just like kind of like he's just rich and he goes to parties and he has this persona. Like Burton Bruce Wayne is aloof, and that's what makes him weird. There's that's the take. And so when talking about like people who are displaced in this world, it's like circus freaks, right? It has nothing to do with like the real world displacement of people who have been like beat down, right? Like that's just a whole other like storytelling device that, again, like I said at the top, this is a good story. Like, man, delving into like if there was a version of Two-Face that was like, hey man, you came from us, you're ignoring us, and look at you, you're all up here now, and him having to wrestle with the duplicity of I did come from this. Am I selling my people out because of I'm trying to attain this? I think that's a great take. It's just not the Tim Burton universe.
Right.
That makes sense.
But I would rather have, and I think having Tim Burton come through and be like, let's take the bones of this and I'll, pull some levers visually. But I would much rather have this, because to me, this adds so much depth to Two-Face. I mean, in this story, we get a very different version of Robin and Two-Face that I don't think we would have seen in any other medium. And it's really cool that the Burtonverse medium is the one we get to see that in, because just look at the opposite, right? For like Batman Forever, we get a very traditional hokey obsessed Two-Face. And I think it would have been a weird missed opportunity to just do that in the Burtonverse. Just like look what he did with Catwoman and Penguin at the time in Batman Returns. He took very different approaches to what the traditional comic book route would be. And that also happens with both Robin and Two-Face in this story. And I think that's a kind of even if it's not as Burton-y as you would like, it still takes the ultimate like idea of him taking those characters at their core and reinterpreting them for something that would be, interesting enough to do.
One omission in the story, that the missed opportunity, is bringing back Alexander Knox.
Oh my gosh, I agree with that. Absolutely. Why is Knox not in here?
Hashtag Ryan Brain.
Like
he was
replace Summer Gleason with
Knox. He was destined to be the cover of issue number 6.
Yeah,
saying 6 is good. And
granted,
Haas, I think you and I thought the exact same thing at the exact same time and text each other the same thing, and it was amazing. Our best connection yet. Now the consolation
even
prize,
Nikki Vale,
yeah, you could have brought her back.
You could have
even on TV.
This is a celebration of those two movies. That's what would have been really cool, like bringing back the things we're familiar with.
Yeah, they could have done a Gossip Gertie even if they want.
Right.
Oh no,
she was in Returns.
She wasn't Gossip.
She was in Returns.
The actress was in Returns. You could plausibly say that was Gossip.
Bob Kane's wife.
You could say that was Gossip Gertie in Batman Returns. You could.
So.
Yeah. But I mean, there's something there. I don't know why the shame on Knox. It would have been nice to be the cover of 6, but the consolation prize.
He's out.
Exactly. But the cover for issue 6 might be the best one of all of them. That cover which is the back of the hardcover now.
Yeah.
But the painted Justin.
Yeah, it's great.
I think that is an awesome cover. Love that cover.
Totally.
Love that Joker. But another, and then this might be probably like the end of my negativity, if you will, the story scene, the connection to the savings and loan heist at the beginning, because that's a great big action piece, and I think it's like it's a big part of the first issue. Then issues 2 through 5, it's almost like it's mentioned like, oh yeah, remember there's more to that heist. That's it. And then issue 6, it's like an info dump of like, so actually this is what was happening, and the whole reason behind that heist, it wasn't just about money, it was about distractions because there's paper and evidence inside, and Harvey now is above everyone, including Carmine Falcone, or Falcone, your call. And that's why that was so important. Period. And I'm like, and I thought that reading it this time, knowing that when I just read this, in July, that I left it kind of scratching of like, why the emphasis? What is the big cover up with that heist at the beginning? And I wasn't remembering. And so then I had that on my mind reading it this time. And then to have, I think it's Selena who drops all that knowledge on Bruce there in the 6th issue. And I'm like, man, this just kind of feels like exposition here.
Yeah.
And you haven't been paying attention to it the past, 5 issues. But here you go. And that's a disconnect to me as far as like following the story. I don't know how that worked for you guys.
Yeah, because
great action piece. Great action piece in the first issue.
Yeah. But I think it's just kind of, I feel that stuff is maybe a detriment to the 6-issue format, because this whole time it was like, man, how are they going to fit this all into 6 issues?
Yeah.
When's this going to happen? When's that going to happen? And I feel like that part of it, Flower, definitely has a back seat to the character development and transformations of, Drake into Robin and the creation of Two-Face for sure.
It definitely, I just think it was just, again, with this story, I think it was trying to do too much.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I think if they did, like I think like you were saying, Lauer, like if it was just gonna focus on like Two-Face and do maybe a little Robin backup, I actually like that idea, because like either, I mean, you can tie the two stories together. You have 6 issues, but it was like how to try to connect both of their backstories into, like, I was just and bring in like, you know, Selena Kyle and just everything else. It just, I actually felt like the middle 3 issues kind of dragged. Like, wait, they tease, oh, this is the Two-Face turn. No, it's not. He's okay. You know, like they almost teased too much too. Like there was just some weird pacing on it. But like you said, you read it collected, it probably reads better.
It reads a lot better collected,
because there was a big gap. Like
I don't think that
issues came out.
If the time comes, Justin, where you do read it all collected like that, which I don't think you're gonna have some epiphany, some big moment. You're big. I shall become a bat moment for this book of like, never mind, it all connected and I love it. It's my favorite story of all time. I don't think you'll have that at all. It may just remain the same. Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna have that at all.
So that's, I don't know. That's a little bit, I think that does affect my pacing, because that was on my mind reading those middle issues, waiting for stop just saying it's important and show me why it's important instead. And then it does become a little bit of an info dump and but that's about it when it comes to like the negative aspects to this story. I love all of the freaking nods in this. So we've already mentioned some. I love the inclusion of Catwoman. I think I'd seen some comments that she wasn't needed for the story.
I agree.
I don't know if I agree or disagree with that, but I'm glad that she's in the story. Like I'm thoroughly enjoy the.
She was the fan favorite. You had to put in like the fan favorites.
Yeah, I was kind of there at the same time. As like, well, I'm glad she's there. She's adding some depth, but to Justin's point of there being just too much in the story, I was like, that's one you could save for later. You know,
they could have saved. I would have
be in there.
They could have teased her at the end, kind of like the end of 92. You know,
Two-Face is enough. I didn't need to have like Bruce's and Selena's arc also have some sort of injection revolution in there.
I gotta say, I love her cover for issue 5.
Oh yeah,
it's a great cover.
Not only because of the hell here, but I'm trying to flip to it. I mean, because we all know and love that image, right, of hell here. But there is this cat Quinona's decided to put in the bottom corner that is just. It's got like the squirrel gif of like the squirrel to zoom up and its head turn like, huh? Yeah. You know, that's the pose that this cat has, and I adore it. I love that. But
I like the addition. There's a little there, like again, going back to the little winks and nods and stuff, like Dr. Q. You get a little Harley Quinn in the background while he's working out. I think that was an issue too.
Gotham, the Indiana state flag for Gotham City flag in Harvey's office. Hey,
that was something,
right?
You mentioned that, right? Why was that
for 89 in the 89 book? We were
talking
about that. Like, does Gotham have a real flag?
Yeah,
Indiana state flag. Anyways, carry on. It is interesting.
Can I mention I didn't like Barbara Gordon in this either, though.
Ooh, I was going to mention I like the addition of Barbara.
Oh, I didn't, and I think that even when like Gordon's gone, I just felt like there's no impact or like emotional, like, I don't know, resonance with Gordon just being gone.
There could have been more, because they
really
do
glossed over. Like that could have been like a huge plot point, you know?
Yeah, like you're waiting for the last issue to be like, you hear that he's like passed away, like on the news, like, oh yeah, he really is gone, you know, and it just kind of happens. But on the other hand, they go out of their way in the story to make sure in universe that that Batman and Gordon have a history. Bruce Wayne knows that this Gordon was the one that was the first one on the scene when his parents got murdered. And you got Batman and Gordon working together very closely, like at the beginning of the issue, and Gordon's in it a lot more than the other two movies.
You think so gamer headset on?
Yeah. I loved that. It didn't bother me. I thought
I was just bummed they weren't on top of the build. They weren't on top of police headquarters. But I get, like, you know,
and you did not, and you didn't get the classic, you know, triangle of Burton.
See,
of Gordon, Dent, and Batman.
Yeah, that would have been a nice homage right there.
The Dent from '89, I thought you definitely came across as a good guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's at the end reading the letter from Batman. To me, like, it's like, oh, okay, he's aboard with like Batman. He's a watchful protector. He's all about him. And I felt like this story starts off of Dent is just, he's anti-Batman and then he's anti-Gordon.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, huh. Like you can
be politically motivated by money and stuff like that. But yeah, that's, oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because in Batman 89, you get Dent. Like, he's working at, by the way, he's a DA. I don't know why he's doing certain things. Like, why are you worrying about like this?
Yeah, ghosts and goblins.
Yeah,
ghosts and
goblins. But
you know, that's, you could also say that's very, what you see in 89 is very surface level. You know, like you.
But
he's
working. Remember, he's like there. He's on the phone. He's like, I'm trying. Like, he's working hard to like.
I need all the help I can get.
Yeah, he's bought in to like help Gotham City. You know.
And introduced to him here where he is pretty anti those two. And I was like, that's interesting, that because I never felt like he's an ally to them in this. And I'm not saying that like that instantly disconnected me from this story with him. It's just interesting that, oh, the last we saw him to where we see him in this.
Right. Again, it's like, because he's missing completely from Batman Returns. Like, you could have built up for that. You could have built that into Batman Returns.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, just him having a bigger turn, like, man, you took this champion for justice and you flipped him because of, you know, whatever happens would have been like the take. But yeah, you know, we got what we got. It's just, whew.
Yeah, a little bit like, with me, but I, unlike Justin, I liked Barbara Gordon's inclusion here. It didn't bother me at all that she is engaged to Harvey. She is the commissioner's daughter. She is part of GCPD. All that worked for me.
Yeah, I like that setup.
What did you guys think? Issue 3, did it get you at first? I thought they were going back on what they teased at the previous issue of like, oh, this is how he's going to turn into like Two-Face with the acid leaking and the fire, he's passed out. And then issue 3 opens and the first couple of pages is just like, he's just hitting home runs. And I was like, really? They pulled the rug out from it, and then you turn the page and then you realize like, oh no, this is the turn. Like, this is what's going on with him. I really, really liked that.
I love that even more the second time. And that's one of those moments where I felt like that is where, like, if you saw this on film, like, Burton would have definitely pivoted hard into that kind of stuff. Like, the alternative dream world, second, you know, visions of things. Like, I think that was really cool.
What do you think, Justin?
I mean, like, again, that's the hard part, because like at this point, I was begrudgingly reading these after issue 2. Like, issue 1 didn't blow me away, and like I remember writing my review of like, oh, I'm not feeling this. Let's see how it goes. And I think, you know, once we hit issue 3, like I love that cover of issue 3 with Barbara Gordon. She's holding the old bat symbol.
The stuff behind her.
Like, what happened? Like, where's that story? I didn't get that story. You know, like,
that's teased at the end.
Yeah. So at this point, I was just going through the story. You know, I was just trying to follow it, hoping it was like gonna like swoop back up for me. And you know, unfortunately, with the big break that we had in the storytelling, and then with the just seeing how it went, you know, I was just trying to like get through it. And so nothing after like issue 3 really made me like, oh, that was cool. Like I'm being honest, and I'm not.
It lost you, and you didn't get your back.
It lost me, and I was just like, well, my heart broke because I love Batman 89, you know, and I was so excited for this, and so it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna see it through, and you know.
But it was like homework.
Turned, I think the way he, it was kind of like homework. But I think, I mean, the way he turned and stuff. That was cool, like with the explosion, because you have to avoid acid. You can't do acid with anything. Joker acid, right? So you have to do something a little different. So this was a little akin to Batman animated series, where it's an explosion that comes up on him. And so, I didn't have any issues with that part of it. You know, it's just, it is what it is. I was like, okay, well, I'm here. Let's see what happens.
I think some of the best art is the close-ups of Harvey, of Two-Face.
Oh yeah.
In this,
Yeah.
so definitely in that third issue where the top half of the page is there's something wrong with my face, and it's
Yeah.
our first really good look at him. I think
Yeah.
that's really good. And then the open of issue 6, which is the full page of him having the
Yeah.
Dent and Two-Face.
Great.
And that
Yeah,
looks
that's a great
obviously because
stuff.
of the blue, it
Yeah.
looks like animated series, not, but
Right.
I think the art itself on that is like, man, this is the best, I think, of
Yeah.
the whole book are those panels where it's a close-up on Dent.
Yeah. Agreed.
But let's see here. The story wraps up. I do like Justin, you may not. I don't know. I hope they do a sequel to this. Like our
too.
pal Garrett got out of Robert Venditti that there is going to be a sequel to the
Mhm.
Superman 78 series.
Yeah.
I hope there's going to be one with this. Because
I hope so too. I really do. I would hope for, no disrespect,
sure.
to not have Sam Hamm. I think this is his, like, here's how I would do it, because the history of him writing Batman 89, it was like, that's not on his script. He got the writing credit, and when he kind of got hosed a little bit, Denny O'Neil felt bad for the cat and let him write Blind Justice, which introduced characters like Descartes and stuff. So he has Batman like
Cred.
Cred, right? Right. No one took his card.
Nobody took his
Batman
card.
Cred. I just don't think his style works with the Burton style. And again, I keep bringing up Burton because you have to with 89. That's what people love. They love the Anton first. They love the Burton take.
I guess it's a little easier to get around the, we don't need Richard Donner's stamp of approval for Superman 70. I mean, he's no longer with us, right? But it's easier to write. I think it's easier to get that feeling.
But then Diddy, but see, that's the thing. And I'm not a huge like Richard Donner Superman fan. I'm like,
I know, we know.
Yeah, I'm not into, I don't like the whole like, gee, golly, I'm Superman. But I'll tell you this, that Superman 78 comic book felt like I was in that world. I felt like I was in the world of
I'm with
Superman
you.
1 and 2. I did not feel like I was in Burton's world in this book.
I think I'm pretty close to that there, and that's not shade on anything. It's just I did feel 78, that comic was more of a continuation in that world than this one was. This was using influences from that world. In which, I mean, some, like I've been saying, some were successful to me, some didn't hit as well. But I do like the ending threads of where it's, I mean, I want to see the spin-off book, The Avenging Eagle, the Drake continuation comic. But I do like that. I'd be curious to see what they do with the fact of Barbara seeing the picture of Bruce under the cowl. And what Catwoman, because Catwoman is such a freaking interesting character. I'm curious what this Catwoman does, because she was so motivated in returns for what she was doing, that that book closed. So it is like, why does she need to continue on as Catwoman when her mission's done? I liked her in this book because a little unpredictable. And I would like to see where she would go with that too. And then how do you fit Keaton into it? And Michael Keaton, what do you think? You get some input on this. He'd probably say, talk less.
I see. I felt like Catwoman was so off in this whole book too. I was like, you just didn't get who she was, like what she was doing in Batman Returns, because she comes in and the whole thing where she's talking to Batman, like about talking to him about her, with her shrink and stuff. Like, I felt a lot of that just didn't sit with me. I was like, this isn't her, man. And she's so involved in I don't know. She's so involved in in knowing of who, you don't even know who you're having lunch with, Bruce. There's a little. It just didn't feel super authentic, right?
I can't argue with that. And I could say that I'm just an apologist because I think the character's in the book. So I'm so neutral on that. I don't know. I think it probably is justifiable that she wasn't needed in the book, but I'm really, really glad she's in the book.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. It's just made me happy.
I'm there too,
She
especially
cats.
because by the time you get to the end, you do have like that vision of the future, and it is one of those things where it's like, if this is written as well, there isn't not. It's written as if there's not going to be another one after this too. So they're like, well, we might as well throw Catwoman in because we might not get a chance to do that
Sure.
after this.
I imagine that it's made enough
Because
money
it would
for
make it,
them.
because this would make it have made a trilogy, right? Like,
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Are there any areas we haven't brought up that either of you want to talk about? Even just quick mentions of something?
I was gonna like, I think the best part of this entire thing is the covers.
Covers are great.
covers are great.
I think the covers are incredible, and there's a lot of, I think
The main covers. Like I
The main
wasn't
covers.
too. There's
No,
one
well, the main
variant.
The
I was
variants, some of the
impressed, but
variants weren't the great.
there's
They didn't
there's
put
a
Batman
Mitch
89
Garrett's
back.
variant where Batman's upside down. I love that. That's the second.
There
I think that's the
was-
second variant on issue 1. Sorry, I don't have. I'm going.
No, I
by,
got you.
like, my
Variant
number
number 2, issue 2.
Is it
Yeah.
where he's upside down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
That's a pretty good one.
I love that one. That thing
I didn't
is
get
great. And
that
the
one.
Lee Weeks one is still great too. Like,
Jerry Ordway did one for the first, which I think was a nice touch.
it was not. It was just
but
weird.
it's
'cause
okay.
The coloring
I didn't
was
get it.
really weird on it. It was
I
like,
bought
oh.
the more expensive other variant that looks very
Oh
realistic.
yeah, we got
Yeah,
Jerry.
that was great.
cool.
And that one
That
was,
was
by
great.
Torrin Clark. I
Well,
love
that's
that
good
cover.
They have them all in the back. That's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the main covers by Quinones are the best ones out of all of them. Even
They're
though we
so
didn't
great.
get
And I think
Knox.
they capture the tone. They capture that tone. You know.
Yeah. That's a
I don't
great-
love the Robin costume. I think he looks like a Mortal Kombat character. I just, but I get why, like in the story, in the context of the story. So,
I liked it. I thought that the naming nod, the first one, was kind of silly, only in the sense of like smirking up. They said because he
They
was
hit it
Robin.
from a lot of angles. Robin, but he also has
He
birds,
was,
and
he was
also has the
Robin,
R
and then
from
he's
the
like
Royal.
smirking as if, and it's like, don't wait. Is
Yeah.
that where his origin is going to come from? But then they
Yeah.
do, like you just said, of yes, he has birds, and there's one. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that. That's a little bit.
Yeah, but they did some really cool like Tim Drake homages, like
Mm-hmm.
in the book where they hit that cover of the trade where he's on, or the first issue where he's like on top of the gargoyle. So
Right.
you get some of those great poses. I love stuff like that, and I feel like I want to acknowledge like the respect to like the characters when you do stuff like that, because those things matter,
When what is it, issue 2, when Alfred comes down to the cave, Keaton's like,
Oh yeah, like
Bruce
in
is
Return.
sitting over just like in Returns, and he's pulling out the claws out of himself, and I
Yeah.
instantly saw that, and I was like, oh my god, that's a great touch.
Yeah.
and
There's a
then-
lot of that. There's a lot of that. Like even like there's a Keaton face that he
There's
has
a lot of facial expressions.
where it's like, oh, you paused the movie and
There's
got
some
that
Selena
look.
Kyle ones that are like that.
But
Yeah.
Selena's
those
look
are cool.
great. I love that he's wearing the Batman suit from the action figure, like when he takes his suit off.
Yeah.
Like it's that.
Yeah.
It's like the heartbeat
The
on
quick
the
change
on the
Bruce
peck
Wayne.
or
Yeah,
something.
it's like
It's a
so
bat.
cool.
It's a bat.
It's a
yeah.
bat, yeah. But it looks like a heart.
Quinones
a
put in
heart
his
bat.
input on Bruce Wayne hanging upside down is to
Yep.
work out,
Yeah.
and
I love
also in that same scene, Dr. Q is on the TV.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey,
Mhm.
that's a nice.
That's
touch.
where he's all turned off that psychobabble.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time for this. So
Haas, do you have?
Yeah, I
Anything
feel
of
like a
note?
lot of that stuff. I feel like Gotham. You feel the pulse of Gotham a lot in this story. Maybe even more than Batman Returns. Maybe even more than 89. I don't know. It feels it's interesting how much more fleshed out Gotham feels as a living, breathing city in terms, and you get a lot of entry points with a whole bunch of different characters. But the most successful thing to me is just the Two-Face looks like a Burton Two-Face. The voice, I feel like Sam Hamm really captured Billy D's voice in this. I can hear his voice in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most all these lines. It feels very, very good. And for all of the wonder I would have in my head of like, well, how would a Robin work with Keaton's Batman? I feel like that was done really well in the story. All these scenes between Drake and Wayne in and out of costume, I think are very interesting and hit some really cool character moments that I think would definitely have worked between Keaton's Batman and
Mm.
a potential crime fighting partner.
I think Harvey Bullock was a dick. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
I guess my Harvey Bullock is the animated series Harvey Bullock, where it's that like he is a good guy. He just does things that aren't your thing.
Yeah.
This one he felt a little bit more of the kind of a dirty cop. But not necessarily of like
not in the Eckhart way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's like, oh well, Eckhart's dead. We'll just use Bullock, which you should just put Bullock.
Overruling Gordon, and I just feel like no, Bullock, that's something that he won't do. He's loyal to Gordon, that he
100%.
wouldn't do that. Doesn't mean that like whatever. In this book he did. So it's just like didn't full on resonate with me. I mistakenly said Lawrence is in 2 panels with the boombox. He's only in 1 panel with the boombox. The other one
you just read it twice. You're like, I love that panel.
I prefer him with a boombox over a gun, but whatever. Good touches of I'm skimming real quick. I apologize. When Batman comes on and he knocks a guy out on the roof by the bat signal. There's a few pages later where he's riding with Drake on the bike, and the signal's still up in the sky, but you can see the outline, like the person's still on the signal, which I think is great. And that guy is burning all of his skin. And I do love, I felt a little bit of the Detective 27 cover, but also found it kind of funny that Gordon is like the damsel in distress that Batman is carrying him. He's got his arms around
and the dialogue
his
is really good there.
In the glider cape.
Yeah.
That's how Batman should glide, man. That's how Batman should.
I love that. So all those touches, in addition to like some strengths with other characters, is what really kept me invested in the story to where I landed in the end, like I did. The story, they called it Shadows. What I don't think I necessarily have a full-on explanation of like, oh yeah, it's obviously called Shadows because
right.
Da, 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 da. Do you either of you have one? I know that's going.
I have zero insight of
yeah, okay.
the meaning behind it.
I don't necessarily know either. I was like, okay,
doesn't make sense.
Shadows.
Doesn't make
I like
sense.
that they used the text that they did for it.
Yes,
but otherwise the title itself.
Oh, so there you go. That was one of my complaints. Sorry.
All right.
So, I know
one of them.
Yeah, I know one of them. I know I'm that guy. But like, so they used the Batman like typeface for like returns and stuff, but they put like this like stroke on it that doesn't make sense.
See, now I'll have to compare because I'm imagining now they used something similar for the opening in '89, right?
Yeah, it was just Batman. Like it's basically like a Times New Roman. Like,
well, I mean, I thought when they say Gotham City, don't they use something similar to this?
Yeah, like whenever it says like later on the thing or whatever.
So you're saying that there's
it's purple. It's the same text,
okay.
But it's purple. It doesn't have the drop.
Yeah,
I got something.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, I thought it was a continuation, but I didn't like watch the movie and grab the comic to compare. And also, Justin, I do know that you are a graphic man, so you definitely pay close attention to that stuff. So I totally understand. And Paul, like, Justin, and I are both wearing Batman Book Club shirts right now.
Yeah, that's that's just me being a little picky. It's just like a fatter type. I don't know. I'm not mad at you for it. Yeah, I'm a wiener when it comes to that stuff. I get like if I was the art director on this, I'd be like, okay, like
there's the cold open for this, Justin. I am a wiener.
I am a wiener.
I am a wiener.
Let's hop to some favorites real quick, shall we?
Yeah, let's find them.
Okay,
hey.
Justin, you get to go first. What's your favorite part of Batman '89?
I would have to say my favorite part is probably the first issue. That's the one that
the whole first issue.
The first issue, just the intro scenes when Batman shows up. It's like, okay, he's here, he's fighting. You know, you're kind of hearing the movie, the music, because I played the soundtrack when I read it. Sure. You know, I have. It's weird, like it's weird having the Keaton voice in your head because usually when you read a Batman comic, who do you hear? Kevin Conroy, right? Like that's kind of like
Justin Kowalski's Batman voice.
Yeah, my Batman, right? Oh gosh, that's hilarious. But yeah, you hear like Kevin Conroy probably. But like this was the first time I was like, oh, I'm going back to I got Keaton in my head and a lot of I thought there was a lot of good Batman stuff in that first issue. You know, he did get kicked by, you know, Robin, which I was kind of like, he should have blocked that, but okay, we'll get it. So I love the guys in the Joker jackets running around. The homages in that one were funner to me because it felt like this is the first one we're kicking it off, and we're having a little bit of fun with the, you know, all Batman, you know, the BTAS and all that stuff. Yeah, man, I would say that issue is just my favorite part of the whole story. But there's not a specific like interaction, because I didn't love the Gordon interaction with Batman. You know, I thought it was goofy, but I understand why they had it. I was hoping for that rooftop scene. You know, he gave us a signal.
Yeah.
Like, capitalize on that, you know, like, let's see them. So art's is incredible, you know, regardless of coloring, the art's great, man. He did a really great job.
Plus,
yes.
What's your favorite part?
I like basically the back half of issue 5, when it feels like everything is coming to a head and you get all these character interactions with Batman and Gordon and Bullock, and then that's your first big chance to finally see Keaton Batman and Robin in action together. And I think it feels earned and it feels appropriate, and it just feels like a good culmination of the story to that point. And it's great to see it get to actually finally play out.
Nice.
Favorite part.
I think my favorite is, you know, is in issue 3, that front half where they're leading you down to believe, you know, all this stuff, because it just really, it did work on me, because I was starting to feel in reading this, I'm like, you know, this is pretty damn convenient. A lot of this is really convenient. And I was almost a little bit bugged, only to turn then that other page and you see like the all black panel, or that's what Harvey starts to question and realizing how they do.
Right.
Then they flip on you of flip. Hey. I was like, oh no.
And then it gives good character development for Harvey too.
Yeah.
You know?
And it
carries throughout the rest of the book.
The duality stuff. So that was effective to me. It worked on me on the first read. When I reread it, I really like that part. So I think that's what works on me. My favorite. How about a favorite panel? Hoss, you can go first.
I will cheat a little bit and say I will say favorite page.
Oh.
It's the page in the first issue with the Batmobile and all this one. I'll pick that because I bought that page. I bought the original art of that.
Oh,
page.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wait, the one with the penny?
So cool.
The one with the penny and everything?
No, the one with the Batmobile. This one, the other one. This one.
In the first issue?
In the first issue, yeah. I've got the
That's
original.
Cool.
I bought the original art of that page.
Oh, okay.
Wow, it's pretty
good for
great.
you.
Yeah, because it's got you've got the Batmobile, and that's why I've commented on it about the coloring, because on the line art version, boy, it looks really interesting.
That was the first part that really stood out to me. Of like, man, there's some details that seems covered up here. That we all know that Anton first Batmobile pretty damn well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Justin, what about you? Favorite panel?
Yeah, I like where you got Batman. He's sneaking into the apartment where the baby's, you know, where they have the lady has the baby, and she's like, please, man, like, don't hurt. You know, like, I just think it's one of those things that in a movie you don't see all the time. And it's nice to get like a posed Batman. I love Batman when he has his hand behind his cape and he's kind of Dracula, like posing. Yeah. I like that shot. That was really, it's a nice pop.
Yeah, that's cool. For me, Harvey Dent, Two-Face, issue 6. Good. It's so big, it's so detailed, and it's everything about it is done really, really well, I think. Would you guys like to see Batman 89, this story, done in animation?
No.
It can be that quick of an answer. Nah.
Yeah.
I would, yeah.
You would?
Of course.
Okay.
Because it'd be another chance to refine the story again. And it would be interesting to see what gets adapted, what doesn't, and what kind of visual things could be adjusted or done over again too. Like, I think it's definitely worth exploring some more.
I don't know. I think it's opening the door for a lot of criticism. and comparisons of.
I mean, we've got like the Adam West animation stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like,
which are great.
I was gonna say, I think those, and it definitely helps. Which the audience that sought those movies out was paying attention to the voice cast, and the voice cast that we got were the original ones.
Yeah.
So listening here, it's like, okay, if they did this in the animation, let's say in a movie, man, just trying to get Michael Keaton, that already puts you out of budget.
You don't do it if you can't get Keaton and Billy D. You know what I mean? Like, you don't do it. Yeah.
And that's just like, I don't know if they would, but it's like, that's not the question. Would I like to see it? I just don't know that I would be able. This at least separates. It's a different medium, to where I can accept. Was Catwoman eating the story? I don't know, but I'm glad she was there. I think watching a movie, actually, no matter if it's live action or animation, I could judge it a little bit more harshly. I don't know, because it's just, I don't know. It's not. It's too close to the original. I don't know that you could duplicate that or continue that without all the original ingredients. So I don't. I think I'd lean towards no. As soon as it would be announced, I would tweet it and I would be there and buy it, and probably like 3 versions of it as soon as it was available, though. So I'm a sucker.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious what the original 3 Batman, Batman 3 like treatment was going to be before like Schumacher completely came on. Like, Burton had some kind of an idea like what was going to happen. It would have been cool to see that get kind of like extrapolated and like, okay, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more Batman Burton universe in an animated form. That would be cool, but like not this particular story.
Okay. Gotcha.
Which would mean we would get probably like, we're still going to get Billy D. Just maybe a different take. Because I think he'd be down to do it.
I mean, all you really definitely need Keaton, Billy D, and Michelle Pfeiffer.
If Keaton didn't want to do it, they would just have Conroy do it. Conroy would just do it. Like, well, Bale didn't do Gotham Knights. Keaton, that's true. Conroy did. So
there you go. How about, all right, guys, final thoughts on this story. They can be brief. Justin, I know yours will be.
Yeah, we'll just get mine out of the way so you all can send it away. So like, here's what I love, like, is the covers and everything were beautiful. I think that's like a selling point. I almost want to buy the collected edition so I can get that part of it. But I do feel like, as much as this was hyped up and celebrated when it was announced, I think it fell flat for me. I would not give it a Lego Lawrence. I would give it if they made it a Lego Alicia with her broken face.
Oh, wow.
I would have that. And then I would flick it off a Lego building.
Off a building.
Because that's what happened. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. I'm hoping an omelet comes in the next version, Batman, 90 or whatever they want to call it. Like, this is actually Batman 97 or 95, right? If you kind of think about it, like the timeline.
Yeah. Or 93. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I do hope they make another. I hope they make a follow-up, and I hope that I like it better.
Let's take it away. Your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad the book exists and the art is excellent and the story is able to answer and flesh out a lot of really interesting characters and direction I always wanted to see the Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman go to. And I doubt we'll ever really get to see it explored in another medium other than this. So I'm very happy that it's here, and I'm glad that I've got it in a nice hardcover to read, even if the colors aren't great, and I'll read it digitally later. Like, it gives some cool resolution. It gives some cool little branching story paths for what a Two-Face or Robin or Barbara Gordon or what Catwoman or Commissioner Gordon would have come to in this world. The interesting thing is that we are going to see another crack at this allegedly in 2023 with Keaton coming back in live action in The Flash. So I'll be interested to actually look at that and kind of compare the voice and path of Bruce Wayne in this Batman 89 comic to what ends up happening with the man himself next year and see how
Mhm.
which one is closer. Which is the
Yeah.
actor and the new stuff closer, or is the original screenwriter and comic book version closer, or they both kind of serve their own stories in their own ways. I think it'll be very it's another really interesting addition to the Batman mythology that has just been really fun to explore and talk about.
Yeah.
So,
I liked this book in the end. I didn't love it. In that regard, I'm a little disappointed because I really, really wanted to love it and how excited I was at the announcement. But it's definitely, for me, it falls in that B range because I really enjoyed revisiting it. It'll go on the shelf and I'll pull it down here and in some months and I'll revisit it again and it'll be an enjoyable read, re-entering that world and hearing Billy D's voice as Harvey Dent in my head. And some of the art is really, really good. The covers are great. And I mean, my favorite thing I think is all the nods, whether that is bringing in, characters like Catwoman and other Tim Burton things on the Halloween page, which it takes place around Halloween. Woohoo!
Hey,
Perfect timing.
Long Halloween.
Yes. Oh God. All right, so this
Like
is the part where we start talking about the long Halloween. So guys, issue 1. I think it's a quality book, and I feel like it had to have made enough money for them to consider coming up like thinking of a second one. It's just assembling the right parts, and I do hope they do a volume 2 of this. So there you go. Batman 89. For me, Lawrence has that boombox up. Love Lawrence. Make him the villain in the next volume. He corrupts. Oh, brainwaves. The Riddler. There you go. Brainwaves through all the boom boxes in Gotham, spearheaded by Lawrence.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I was gonna say, if they do follow up, who do you think?
Scarecrow.
Oh man, I don't know.
Scarecrow.
Yes,
Burton Scarecrow.
Oh my God, whatever that title was, I'm going blank because I'm really dumb this week. That Schumacher
not triumphant, but what was something else.
Is it a Scarecrow and then on
Unchained
with all of the other villains popping up and stuff like that? Like
That was that was Batman.
That was
was
an animated series thing, I thought.
No.
But
I'm
Batman
talking about
Triumphant was supposed to be the one where Jack Nicholson came back.
Jack Nicholson came back and Bruce. I mean, it was all. I mean, it started because of the Scarecrow's fear gas, right? And that's why he had this mental. Yeah, I mean, give me that. Oh my God, give me that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
And you've already got Harley Quinn like established as existing in this thing because
Harley was.
That's what it was supposed to be. Harley.
Let's change it up a little bit there. Okay, that'll work. Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming back on the club.
Mm-hmm.
I know both of you are coming back for Spooky Month next month on separate issues, separate stories.
It's so wild. I feel like, man, we just did that first one.
I know it's
crazy.
Up with that Haas had to dig deep, but I'm excited for his because I've never read it before. So there you go. Stay tuned to the announcement on the stories that are coming up. But plug away, both of you. I'll let you guys decide who goes first.
You go first.
I'll go. Is that what you say for me to go?
Yeah, you can go first.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to go.
I got nothing.
Okay, all right, there you go.
No, buy some Ghostbuster shirts.
Yeah, buy some Ghostbuster shirts on my TeePublic. I'm going to be doing a couple other. I'm doing a guest stint of podcast. At some point, Let's Go will come back. I just don't know when. And so once the Let's Go Cave gets reestablished, that'll come back. But I'm going to be on the Comic Binge soon.
Yeah,
talking some Man of Steel. I'll be on the Batman on Film social hour. What?
Yeah.
I'll be on that, and then who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'll take Pete out and I'll just do Batman.
You've got one of the seats.
I can't believe you didn't like
Batman
that comic book. It was a great comic book. I had a great time enjoying it. You guys just think too much about stuff. Batman 89 was a great comic. I don't know why. I don't know why you didn't like it. You just want things to be your way. You wrote the story yourself in your head.
You're not mishearing things. Peter Vera has entered the podcast.
Hey, Pete, how you doing?
Cook some meats.
Very cold, man.
Liver King, Hasbula, Galactus,
Galactus.
What?
That was my favorite thing of all time.
What you're talking about?
That was a hit with the fans.
Oh man,
Boudin Pockets. Do you want people to follow you on Twitter or not right now?
Oh yeah, they can. Justin
Okay.
M. Kowalski on
Justin M.
Twitter.
Kowalski.
Sorry, I did not promote that.
There
yeah,
you
go
go.
follow me.
Hoss, have at it. Sheriff. Pew pew.
Yeah, pew, pew, pew. Follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan. Follow the Super Mario Brothers Movie Archive website at SMB Movie. As far as Batman type podcasts, like just scroll back on the Batman on Film feed.
There you go.
I was most recently on the Social Hour. Me and Lauer did Social Hour.
The
80.
Lauer Hour.
Yeah, the Lauer Power Hour.
There's something more recent than that, even.
Yes, well, I'll get to that. But we
Okay.
did the Batman Chapter 7. Don't lose your head, Mr. Coulson. And then
Yeah.
me and Lauer also kicked off the BOF's new Batman animation podcast.
Woo! There we go.
So I got to be on. We did episode 1 of that back on August 18th. It came out. We talked about the Fear, which is from one of the super friends, Galactic Guardians, and it was a really interesting episode.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
Go check that out.
I remember that.
It's on Twitter too. I think it's just at Batman Animation on Twitter too.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes, sir.
That was a great. I just remember
Intro.
that where the lightning strikes and it's like, oh no, like
it was surprisingly deep.
The crying Batman gif that if you're listening to this, you've seen it. It came from that episode. So
yeah,
that's worth tracking down.
Adam West tear jerk. You know?
I may be biased, but I think Haas and I had a really good conversation about it. So
yeah, it was good.
Yeah, check that down.
Become a bat.
Oh, my parents.
That may or may not have been included in the episode. But if you're listening to this, you probably know where to find the Batman Book Club on Twitter and Instagram at the Batman BC, where upcoming episodes, latest episode drops, keep you updated there, including what's coming up in October. With each of these gentlemen, as well as the usual suspects, Peter Vera and Garrett Grev for the spooky month. I'll notify you there. Also, if you have any interest to continue listening to me talk about Batman comics, subscribe to the Batman Book Club YouTube channel, where all these episodes drop, as well as from page to screen. For the most recent one I did with that was with Garrett Grev, where we talked to Batman Ninja Turtles animated movie and the comparisons to that in the comic, as well as the monthly venture, The Road to No Man's Land, with Peter Vera. Wow, the same names. A lot of name drops in this episode. With Peter Vera is on there, going on the road to No Man's Land. That's a fun adventure. A lot of good talk and good stories that I'm reading. Some of them are for the first time because it's collected in the omnibus. So yeah, check that out on YouTube. If you have any questions or comments, you can email thebatmanbc@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, there's a variety of ways you can do that. 1, patreon.com/thebatmanbc. 2, tpublic.com, where you can buy Batman Book Club merchandise, which Justin and I are both proudly sporting, designed affectionately, brilliantly.
I'm wearing my own stuff, Paul Herman. Shut up.
Created by Justin Kowalski.
It's created by me.
And actually, there might be something really fun coming up in the future, which we'll notify everyone about if that happens. But if you want to support the show and you don't want to spend any money at all, that's 100% A-okay. The best thing you can do is rate and review the show wherever you listen to it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Google, wherever. Rate and review the show, because the more reviews the show gets, the more it helps spread the word. And as we all know, the word is panic. So for Justin Kowalski and Ryan Haas, I am Ryan Lauer. And until next time, remember.